Hello, this is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill to answer any questions you might have. For those of you unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world, so busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings into new videos and articles I upload every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no commercial sponsorships, no corporate sponsorships, strictly not commercial, not selling anything, just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. That's why I became a doctor, and that's why I practice the type of medicine I practice today, lifestyle medicine. All right. Let's get to your questions. They are already lined up. Julie has the first question. Julie Latz, what's my opinion on doing genomic testing for estrogen receptor positive cancers? Don't have cancer, but want to know what steps, take the steps to learn about any hiccups in my genes that could cause it. So I assume you're talking about like BRCA testing for breast cancer. So it's something I definitely talk to your doctor about. A lot of it depends on your psychology. So for example, if you found out you were particularly high risk for breast cancer, what would you do? Well, you eat healthy, exercise, lose weight, do all the things, cut down alcohol consumption, all the things that would otherwise increase your risk of breast cancer. And if having that information would make you more likely to improve your lifestyle, then maybe it's worth it. If having the information would make you just kind of throw up your hands in the air and be less healthy, then maybe it's not such a good idea. Again, genes load the trigger, genes load the gun, environment pulls the trigger. And so regardless of what your genetic risk, regardless of what bad genes we've been dealt, we can reshuffle the deck with diet. Stephanie Souza says mother has aquagenic pruritus, gets extremely itchy when water touches her skin. What can she do about it? It's not something that I've ever seen in relation to diet. If you want to type in aquagenic pruritus and the word diet into PubMed.gov, the database of the National Library of Medicine, largest medical library in the world, anything pops up and you don't have access to it, let me know. I will pull the articles myself, share them with you. And if there's something there that I think has kind of broader interest among people, if it's groundbreaking or practical or interesting, I will do a video about it. Thanks for your question. I hope she feels better. Rowena Smart asks, starchy food makes me extremely tired immediately after eating them. What do I suggest? Well, if by starchy food you mean like what typically people eat as starchy food, which is refined carb junk, like cookies, crackers, most bread. I mean, this is, these are refined foods, and we should try to minimize them. So in my traffic light system, they're yellow light foods, meaning they should be minimized on a day-to-day basis. However, you're talking starchy foods like legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, or whole grains, particularly whole intact grains, then that should not be happening to you. So what do I suggest? I suggest you stop eating refined junk, if that is indeed what you're doing. Ted B2012 asks, I've heard freezing fruit damages the fibers. Does freezing affect digestion and our healthfulness? And what's the relationship between the actual fibers and its fiber? Freezing. So frozen, so if you look in my freezer there, it's full of half frozen berries, half frozen greens. Frozen fruits and vegetables are a great, convenient, cheap, pre-chopped, pre-cleaned way to get more fruits and vegetables in your diet. Sometimes it can be even healthier than fresh because the so-called frozen, the so-called fresh fruits and vegetables have been sitting on a ship from, halfway around the world, New Zealand or something, losing nutrition every day, exposed to air, exposed to sunlight, exposed. Whereas frozen produce, maybe frozen on the day of picking, actually retain more nutrients. Of course, ideally, fresh, local, freshly picked is best. That's why we proudly belong to a community-supported agriculture project here in Maryland. And so we get the best of both worlds. But look, during the winter months, what are you going to eat? And frozen is a great option. In terms of the actual fibers, so those actual fibers in plants are fiber. But the soluble fiber, like in berries, for example, is what gels it up. You don't actually see fibers as per se, but they're all good. Eat them. Anton Zineviv asks, yes, and about dental root canal treatment. What? Wants to know. It sounds like maybe this is a question about enamel, mercury-containing dental enamel. I'm not sure. Please clarify the question. Be happy to answer it. Ted B212 is back saying, I have a very sensitive digestive tract, and eating anything mostly causes intestinal gas. Is it possible a whole food plant-based diet will cause food to travel too quickly, that I will miss vital nutrients? I don't see the connection. If you have diarrhea, things are moving quickly, but gas isn't a sign that things are moving particularly quickly. If you have chronic diarrhea, yes, indeed, you may not be absorbing as many nutrients as you like, and put you at risk for electrolyte abnormalities. You should definitely go see your doctor about it. But intestinal gas, normal, healthy. If you have excessive gas, then, you may have, there's all sorts of reasons like lactose intolerance, etc. Then you can get that checked out. It's probably a microbiome issue if you recently went through certain types of antibiotics that can wipe out your good gut flora. Leanne asks, is it more helpful to use miso as salt replacement than is to leave outside and salt and miso completely? Does using it in baking deteriorate any of the healthfulness? Oh, great questions. No, well, so miso is a health-promoting food. Do you need to use it? No. So there's three options: salt, miso, or nothing. As long as you don't use the salt option, you're fine. So miso or nothing would be the best. And you can bake miso all you want, and that shouldn't affect its healthfulness. Other than, of course, destroying the good bacteria in it. So you're not going to get kind of any effects the live bugs in miso would have, but we're not sure what those might be. Leanne further asks, can't find miso without rice as an ingredient. So maybe it's just kind of some rice starter, something you should be worried about. Arsenic and miso, no. Presumably, if it's just little rice, I wouldn't worry about it. Is chickpea miso green light, or does only soy-based miso overcome the salt issue? Good question. So is chickpea miso, does it have any soy in it, or is it all chickpeas? The reason we think that miso, despite its salt content, is not associated with stomach cancer, not associated with hypertension, the two things we're cutting down our salt intake for, is because of the protective benefits of soy. Do we have the same protective benefits in chickpeas? I don't know. It hasn't been put to the test. So, so good question. I don't know. Lemon juice. Is lemon juice still green light? So, well, not technically, right? So green light foods are whole plant foods. Any juice, lemon juice or otherwise, is a processed food because you're throwing away the fiber. But how much lemon juice you're eating? Probably just like a little spoonful, so it doesn't really matter. But because it's technically like green light, Actually, in the How Not to Die cookbook, do I have I have a copy somewhere. How Not to Die cookbook coming out December 5th, which I'm excited about. Because I wanted all the ingredients to be green light, we actually don't use lemon juice. What I do is that we just throw a piece of lemon in the blender. So instead of like half of a lemon's worth of juice, you just peel a lemon and cut it in half and throw it in the blender, and then you get the juice plus all the other wonderful stuff in it. So, but do you have to do that? No, you could just use lemon juice. We wanted everything to be as healthy as possible. If you use whole stevia leaf straight from the plant, is that a green light sweetener? It depends how much you use. So it's harmless at doses I describe in my. I did a video about it. If you type in stevia to NutritionFacts.org, you'll see that there's a level at which you can exceed the amount of stevia compounds and may have negative health effects. But if you use it in doses, in kind of doses like less than 5 stevia sweetened beverages a day, I think was the metric, then according to the WHO should be harmless. Have I come across any research on preventing or reversing age-related hearing loss? Oh, yeah. So what got me interested is that there are some populations that do not suffer from age-related hearing loss, which suggests, oh, wait a second, it may be a consequence of lifestyle, diet and lifestyle. So that is one of my research projects on my list, to find out what is it about these populations, what are they eating, how are they living, that may contribute to their preservation of hearing. It's a great question. All right, Ted B212 asks, are there any concerns about eating 100 grams of protein a day if the protein's all from healthy sources? Has there been research done on high levels of plant-based proteins? Well, there was the Eco-Atkins diet by the Jenkins group up at the University of Toronto. They ate a relatively high plant-based protein sources and did not see the kind of negative effects one sees with high animal protein intake. So, for example, if you look at that famous cell metabolism study that I feature in a bunch of videos, high levels of animal protein intake were associated with during middle age, associated with 75% increased risk in premature death, 4-fold increased risk of dying specifically from cancer. That was for predominantly animal protein, not plant-based proteins. So as long as you're eating whole food sources, so if you're just eating lots of beans, the only reason you're getting that much protein is because you're just eating lots of lentils. Eat lots of lentils. That's fantastic. The important thing is not so much the macronutrient ratios, but the fact that you're getting your nutrients from whole food sources. Tammy C asks, started eating more potatoes and getting a pain in the hip. Could it be because of nightshade vegetable consumption? Well, about 1 in 20 people with joint pain feel better when they cut out nightshades. So try it and see if it helps. You may be lucky. Intralimpidus asks, has D3, vitamin D3 pills, 5,000 NL units. Can I take 2 every 5 days? 2 every 5 days. Or does your body only store vitamins for a day? Can't split them up. Yeah, your body stores it up. In fact, your body's so good at storing vitamin D, you can, it lasts throughout the winter. I mean, your D levels drop lower than we'd like, and so that's why I encourage people to supplement with vitamin D. But absolutely, so you could take, so I recommend like 2,000 international units a day for most people. So you could take one of those every other day or every 3 days or however you want to do it. That's fine. Your body will kind of average it out because the fat soluble vitamin, it sticks in you. That's why you can actually get too much. But what you described is not too much. Master Coach University asks, if the crust on my bread is browned, darker than the rest, that's kind of the definition of crust, then will that crust contain AGE? Should I cut the crust off like mom used to do? Not AGEs, but acrylamide. So AGEs are formed from high-fat, high-protein foods. Bread really isn't a high-fat food, unless it's crusted with nuts and seeds or something. But if there's like sunflower seeds or something on the outside, they get brown. Absolutely, they can have AGEs in them. But acrylamide, so crispy carbs have acrylamide. I have a bunch of videos on acrylamide, that's one of the reasons why we should prefer lighter toasted bread compared to darker toasted bread until we know more about the acrylamide story. Intralimpidus, why do I have a buffer on my videos? I don't know what that means. Why do I have a buffer on our videos? If anybody knows what that means, in fact, if you, Intralimpidus, could describe what that means, I'd be happy to answer. I'm not sure what that means about having a buffer on my videos. Master Coach University says, are there any studies on the difference between raw cacao and roasted cocoa? Is there any reason to have concern about theobromine in cocoa or cacao? I just check out all my cocoa videos. So I'm a big fan of cocoa powder, which is basically defatted, no sugar cacao. And so those are the two potentially bad things about chocolate is the sugar and the dairy if it's milk chocolate, but the sugar, fat, and dairy. And so cocoa powder has none of those. And so actually has health promoting activities, which you can show in randomized controlled trials, as I have videos about. Master Coach University asks again, if it's like an ad to keep saying their name. If I get my beans from a non-BPA can, is there any other problem with the fact it's canned? Yeah, canned beans can have high sodium content. Why? Because they add salt. So you just make sure you get no salt added beans. Do I have thoughts on ashwagandha? I do not, because it's not something I've ever looked into. Any reason to rotate my nuts and seeds so as to not get exposed to the same protein every day. I was imagining you like turning your little nuts and seeds around, rotating them. No. Well, I mean, variety is good. So I encourage people to add lots of variety. But if you just stuck to walnuts and pumpkin seeds, then that'd be great. That'd be better than most people who aren't getting nuts and seeds in their daily diet. All right. Matt JH33 asks, any more calories to gain lean muscle with exercise? Okay. If I take 250 milligrams of algal long-chain omega-3 fatty acids and a tablespoon of ground flax seeds every day, how many nuts can I eat without adversely affecting my omega-6 to 3 ratio? If you're taking preformed long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, then that's why we want to keep a low omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, so we better elongate the short-chain alpha-linolenic acid. I'm sorry if this is confusing for people that aren't familiar with omega-3 kind of biology, but basically, if you're taking long chains, then the ratio is less important. So I wouldn't worry about the ratio, and I would make sure, and I would eat all the nuts you want. Matt's back again. Would adding calories like whole grains and lentils that contain more sodium than calories make the amount of sodium safe to consume? So if you dilute high sodium foods, can you kind of get away with eating the sodium in processed foods? As long as you're eating less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day, then that's a great, quick, convenient way to mix pre-made food with made food. So in my bachelor days, I would, there'd be some kind of prepackaged something, or I'd pick up something at a restaurant or takeout, and then I bring it home and add cans of beans and big things of steamed vegetables and greens. And then I'd have a whole bunch of meals. So I'd have the taste of whatever sauce, which is probably, because it was a restaurant, too high sodium, too high fat, not high fat, high oil, things like that I wouldn't want. But because I just massively added lots of vegetables, it was actually pretty healthy. So that's a great strategy, but still want to keep people under 1,500 milligrams of sodium a day, ideally. Dave Miller asks, what about the freshness of spices? Many spices like turmeric, cinnamon, etc. have been on store shelves for months and have multi-year expiration dates. Does age affect potency? I'm sure it does. How do you know you can get fresh stuff? Well, you might want to try bulk spices. So if you have access to like a Whole Foods or one of these natural food stores, they often have bulk spices. It's just actually cheaper, and you can see that. I mean, they're constantly replenishing them, and so presumably you're getting fresher stuff than some, turmeric that's been sitting in a jar in the corner of some, gas station convenience store that no one's touched forever. You can also often see just the kind of the vibrancy. Like if you look at some chives or something, chives turn from bright green to brown very quickly in the bottle. So you see if it's your chives, for example, look all brown, they've obviously been there for a while. So just by kind of looking at it, you may be able to get a sense. All right, any problem? Leanne asks, any problem with eating raw squash seeds? Oh, no, great. Eat raw squash seeds. I mean, they might be a little slimy, so you can dry them out. So like you could put them in a toaster, like a toaster oven kind of thing at like 200 degrees. I mean, so that's low enough where you're not going to be creating these glycotoxins, but it just kind of speeds up the making them kind of dry and crispy. And then roasting veggies is fine, right? Because it's only the high fat, high protein foods that create these glycotoxins. So roasting veggies is a great way to eat more veggies. Dave Miller asks, after discovering the Eco-Atkins diet, blah, 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 what's my stance on Eco-Atkins? Is it safe? If people kept it to mostly whole food plant-based, if you're eating a whole food plant-based diet, I am not concerned about your ratio of macronutrients. You can eat a healthy, high-fat whole food plant-based diet, eating lots of nuts, seeds, nut and seed butters, avocados, or low-fat, or high-carb, low-carb, high-protein. As long as you're eating your nutrients in whole plant food form, I think that's probably the most important thing. Is the BPA in canned beans enough to worry about? Canned beans are more expensive. If you're worried about the cost of beans, I mean, if a can of beans is too much, you can get dried beans, cook them yourself, and get really cheap beans. But I encourage people to buy BPA. If you're going to buy canned foods, try to get BPA-free cans or cook them yourself. There's these, electric pressure cookers, which within minutes you can have fresh beans from dried beans, and it's amazing. And they actually taste better than beans in the cans just because they're better texture. Canned beans are kind of mushy, whereas if you make beans yourself, they have a really nice kind of firmness to them. And I don't know that. I mean, for some dishes, it doesn't matter if you're blending to make a bean dip or something, but it's actually kind of nice. So check it out. And of course, it's way cheaper. Martin Van Wezel asks, people worry veg diets are hard and there are many rules where people think adding meat fixes everything. Can I talk through if a vegan diet is harder to get right? If you think about, there is certainly the sense that, if you ate a restrictive diet, like cutting out, groups of foods, like not eating dairy, not eating meat, then you might, there's this deficiency mindset that, oh my God, I might get deficient in something. And particularly among dietetic professionals, because that's their whole, the whole field of dietetics was formed, surrounding these kind of deficiency states, scurvy, pellagra, beriberi, all these kind of now, thankfully, rare, kwashiorkor, rare nutrient deficiencies. Whereas now we are suffering from kind of nutrient excesses. So we're getting too much calories, too much sodium, too much cholesterol, too much saturated fat, too much sodium in our diet, too much refined sugar, too much refined grains, too much processed junk in general. And so now actually the problem with our diets is primarily not deficiencies. It's this kind of excess. And so it's actually easier to avoid those excesses if you're eating a healthier diet, a plant-based diet. And there are a few nutrients we actually aren't getting enough of, like fiber and potassium, and where are those found? Predominantly in whole plant foods. So just by eating a diet based around whole plant foods, you will get more of most nutrients. In fact, I have a video about that, and so ironically, eating this restrictive diet, you're actually getting more nutrition, vastly more nutrition than kind of your traditional, I don't have to worry about my nutrients because I don't know, eat breakfast cereal and go out to fast food or something. It doesn't make any sense. Having said that, of course, there's a critical nutrient deficiency you can get eating a strictly plant-based diet, and that's vitamin B12 deficiency. You need to ensure a regular, reliable source of vitamin B12. But beyond that, it's easier to eat healthfully if you're eating lots of plant foods, because that's where the nutrition is found. That's how the animals that people eat get the nutrition. They're eating whole plant foods. We can cut out the middle moo, by getting our nutrition straight from the ground, where the animals that we eat get it from later on. Liz Taylor asks, what dietary recommendations would I have for hypoglycemia? Well, as always, treat the cause. Why are you hypoglycemic? You should go to your doctor and find out. Often people look up on the internet what hypoglycemia symptoms are and say, I have hypoglycemia, without actually testing their sugars and seeing that if their sugars are actually dipping low enough to be symptomatic. So you should get that all figured out and then find out what the cause is, treat the cause, rather than trying to put a dietary Band-Aid on it. Leanne asks, does it matter for health digestion whether you sit or stand while eating? Good question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think I've ever run across any studies. So I don't think it's actually been looked into. But if you find an article about it, that would be a fun video to do. So let me know, and I'll do a video about it. For Shay at Tapas asks, what do I think about moringa? There's very little research done, surprisingly, on moringa, but I have them all compiled in a moringa folder. In fact, I can tell you exactly how many articles are. There it is, moringa. There are only 46 papers that I can find in the English language, peer-reviewed medical literature on moringa. I'm going to read those all and do however many videos I can pull out of that, and I will let you know. All right, Master Coach University asks, is it true that the Adventist study didn't adjust results? Oh, that's not true. It didn't adjust the results for drinking, smoking, other risk factors. That's not true at all. In fact, the whole point of the original Adventist study, when they compared them to Baptists and Mormons and things, was to actually look at the effects of smoking and the contributions of smoking. The Adventist studies have done go through all the kind of main confounding risk factors to pull out what are the contributors of diet compared to other lifestyle factors in terms of chronic disease. In fact, they're famous for that. Botany Woman asks, when will the fasting videos? Yeah. Oh my God. So they actually may be pushed back even farther. So that's what I was working on last time. Last we spoke. I was gonna put together dozens of videos on fasting, intermittent fasting, ketogenic diets, calorie restriction, and then new book deal. So doing this new book, How Not to Diet, talking about weight control. Manuscript is due March 2019. And so I need to buffer out videos. I only have about 100 days to script out 115 videos. And so I have to give up working on massive topics like fasting and move to smaller, easier, scriptable topics like tea tree oil and aloe vera, which is what I've been working on the last 2 days, because there's just very little in the literature. Whereas there's hundreds of fasting videos, there's only like a few dozen videos on aloe vera. And so, very easy to script videos because I have to buffer out videos so I can spend a year writing my next major work. Speaking of lots of videos, I mean, there are 80,000 articles published on obesity every single year. So already by the time I start writing, I'm hopelessly behind. So it's a huge, intimidating research task. But I am looking forward to taking it on. But to do that, I'll have to push fasting back. So I don't know, if writing goes amazing and I get this book done by the end of the year, by the end of 2019, 2018, months before the manuscript is due, then my priority will be both the fasting series as well as my how to read a research paper series, another series of videos, which I think will be really helpful for people put in a webinar as well. I feel terrible about those. I love doing the webinars. I do have one more webinar coming up. You have 11 days from today to sign up for my next webinar, my cannabis webinar. You go to NutritionFacts.org/webinar to sign up. There will be a delay till the next one, just because I have to go back into the library into research hunker down mode. And our time is up. I'm actually a minute late for my interview calling. I've got to go. Sorry. Quick.